Exomologiste to Kyrio te agathos alleluia.
Otis ton neona to eleos aftu alleluia.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you today a challenge to every Muslim in this park.
Challenge.
Answer me this question about your Quran.
Okay.
Because I want to
hear this question.
I want to present to you an error in the Quran
An error.
that is so simple, so obvious, that no Muslim has any excuse
No excuse.
for not seeing that the Quran is a false book, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, give the evidence. Bring the receipts.
Right, ladies and gentlemen.
Bring the receipts.
It's the semen fluid surah.
Ah, the silver fluid.
Such an easy one. Right, ladies and gentlemen.
Technology, Bob.
Yes,
Technology is better.
you're going to get, ladies and gentlemen,
Okay.
a very boring biology class. But before I give you this very basic biology class, let me just demonstrate to you how ridiculously simpleton the Quran is.
Simpleton.
In Surah
Peasants.
At-Tariq
Okay.
8, which is Surah 86, verse 67,
It says,
it says this.
Ikra.
It says, bear with us, he was created from a water gushing or ejected,
From the
emerging from between the backbone and the ribs.
another testes. Okay.
Stop stealing my thunder, JC. Now let me just give you the Arabic. I apologize to all Arabic speakers. I'm not an Arabic speaker, so if I mispronounce it, I beg your indulgence. But the words of the Arabic are, and Billy can tell me how good my Arabic is. Give us a mark out of 10.
No, let me read it.
Kulika min ma'in dafikin. Yakruju min bayni asulbi wa attaraibi.
You need to work on your tajweed a bit.
Right, I've got to work on my tajweed. But let me just go through every single word and give you its English meaning so you cannot be in any doubt how ridiculously stupid the author of the Quran was.
Wow, okay. Simpleton.
Kulika, which is pronounced,
Kulika.
he was created,
Created.
which is a passive perfect verb. Min, which means from. Ma'in, which means water or fluid.
Okay.
Dafikin, which means gushing, ejected, spurting, or pouring forth. Ladies and gentlemen, can you say ejaculation by another word? Yakruju,
Ayakrutu.
which means it emerges, he emerges, or comes out, or issues forth.
Okay.
Then it's min, which means from, baini, which means between. Now, let's just emphasize this. Between, not below. Between, not beside. Between, not above. Between, not next to. Between. I hope you all understand that the word baini means between.
Betweeny.
But I hear the intelligent amongst you ask the question, oh, between what, Bob? Between what?
Your armpits.
Your ribs and your backbone.
The Quran says, as-sulbi, which means your backbone, your spine, your loins. It says, wa, which means and then at-taraibi. Taraibi, which means your rib cage, or your ribs, or your chest bones, ladies and gentlemen. So let's break this down for all the simpleton dawagandists that you have around you in this park. The Quran is saying that men are created from a liquid that is ejaculated, that comes from between the backbone and the ribs. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what is that not saying? That is not saying that during embryology, that the gonads, your balls, descend from the backbone and the ribs. That's not what it's saying.
That's it.
It's saying you're created from something ejaculated. A liquid ejaculated. Go on, say it with me, ladies and gentlemen. Ejaculated.
Ejaculated.
Are your gonads ever ejaculated? No. So we're not talking about that. What are we talking about? We're talking about sperm, ladies and gentlemen. Or semen, if you want to be fishermen's friends.
Don't they be see, man?
No,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Which Muslim
Okay.
wants to put up their hand and say that sperm comes from between your backbone and your ribs? Go on, which Muslim?
Which Muslim?
Not one, they're all running away.
Are you running?
They're all running away from the stupidity of their own book, ladies and gentlemen.
Ah, that's a simpleton.
Now,
Yeah.
here is the boring biology class. Pay attention, students. You're now going to see why the Quran is wrong to say that semen comes from between the backbone and the ribs. So,
I love the simple.
we're looking using biology textbooks, ladies and gentlemen. The watery seminal plasma that comes out during ejaculation comes from the seminal vesicles or seminal vesicles. These are viscous, fructose-rich, alkaline fluid producing organs in the body that make up the major watery component. And guess where they're located? In the pelvis, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, the ribs.
Yes, not the ribs.
Ah, okay.
Furthermore,
I'm learning.
it also comes from the prostate gland, which produces 20 to 30% of the liquid's volume and gives your ejaculation, your cum, that milky appearance. That thin, milky, watery, alkaline secretion that's rich in citric acid, zinc, and prostate-specific antigens.
Ah, okay, so that is wrong.
And guess, ladies and gentlemen, where the prostate gland is situated. God, can anyone guess?
My ribs.
No, JC.
Oh, Allah.
Anyone? Allah's misled JC. Above the ribs. No. Allah has misled
Ah, okay.
this brother. Guess where you find your prostate gland?
Where?
In the pelvis, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. I'm learning.
It also comes from the bulbourethral glands, which contribute 1 to 5% of the liquid. These secrete small amounts of clear water, mucus, which we experience as the pre-ejaculatory fluid that the male penis encounters when it is engorged and enlarged, ladies and gentlemen. It's too much for the sister. That makes up 1 to 5%. And guess where it's located? Guess where it's located, ladies and gentlemen? Who wants to say, as the Quran does, that it's between your backbone and your ribs? Anybody want to side with Allah? Anyone want to back Allah and say Allah's correct in the Quran?
Dr. Zakir Naik does. He's a medical doctor.
Yes, medical Dr. Zakir Naik does, and I'm sure Timu Zakir Naik here at Speaker's Corner does, as I'm sure Mansur does, and Hashim does, and all the rest of the Dawagandist wannabes here at the park do. But here's what a biology textbook says about this gland. It is located at the base of your penis. So unless you have a particular disformed penis, there is no way on earth that this gland is located between the backbone and the ribs. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, the crowning jewel of this ensemble of semen-producing organs, the most precious of all, dear to every man that has ever lived, who would willingly die rather than give them up. The final semen-producing organ is those most precious things,
Which is called?
the crown jewels, the ghoulies, the epididymis and testes. Your cojones, ladies and gentlemen. That which we get our testicular fortitude from. That gives 2.5% of the overall seminal fluid. And guess where your balls are located?
My rib cage.
No! Allah is wrong! Not between the backbone and the ribs, but in the ball sack, ladies and gentlemen. No! Your Islamist wannabes, your Dawaganda know-nothings that you see here in the park, will try to rewrite what the Quran is saying, and they'll say it's not talking about ejaculated liquid, ladies and gentlemen. It's talking about where your balls are created and descend whilst you're in the womb.
Why doesn't it specify that?
Let me finish.
That's the cop-out.
But that's not what the Quran's talking about. Because, ladies and gentlemen, babies in the womb aren't ejaculated. Their gonads are not ejaculated. There's no pouring forth of the liquid in the womb. It's all done by the uterus, ladies and gentlemen. And the Quran says what you're created from, ladies and gentlemen. That can only be the semen. But notice the Quran has no knowledge of the woman's egg and says nothing about the woman's egg. And please notice that all the Muslims in the park, rather than defend their pathetically stupid Quran, have decided to walk to the other side of the park. Do you know why?
Why?
Because no one can defend stupid. No one can defend stupid against facts, ladies and gentlemen. And the facts are that your semen is produced below the ribs and not between the ribs and the backbone as the Quran says that it is.
Ah, that's an error in the Quran. Okay.
It is an error of the Quran.
Which means that.
And if the Quran has an error in it,
Okay.
then the Quran is false according to the Quran.
False.
So every Muslim,
Okay.
here's your challenge.
Okay.
Come and defend your stupid book, your stupid God, and the stupid authors of your stupid book. Come and debate. Come and debate. So, ladies and gentlemen, any questions?
I have something.
Yeah, go on.
You know what you've done? You actually highlighted a form of hypocrisy I've noticed. Do
Yeah.
you know why? Because you know when you get these mental gymnastics and these modern interpretations of
Yeah.
certain verses. Now, isn't it weird when it comes to interpreting things for Aqidah, creed? It's always go back to the earliest sources. But when it comes to understanding verses like this in the Quran, it's mental gymnastics, find metaphorical meanings. That when you go back to the earliest mufassirin, Quran commentators, none of them had these commentaries. They didn't have these ideas.
Yeah.
The further back you go, the more wrong their ideas were.
Yeah.
And I find it weird when it comes to understanding Aqidah, creed, these matters of the Islamic faith. Muslims are like, oh, you have to go back to the earliest sources. But when it comes to understanding ayat of the Quran that explain things like the earth, the sky, ejaculation, embryology, whatever, it's always, metaphorical spin, mental gymnastics. This modern interpretation that the earlier you go back, you never see.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the thing with these dawagandists in the park and what they do, is that they live in completely double standards. They demand of the Bible a standard that is not inherent to the Bible, while skipping around the standard in the Quran. The Quran says if this were from any other than Allah, we would find many errors in it. And as Billy points out, the modern Muslim commentaries on the errors in the Quran have to reinterpret the verses that the earlier tasfiyah get wrong. And I'll give him some backup, I'll give him some proof.
Like
Bring the
even
receipts.
if you look like about the earth, like one of the Salafis' favorites is Jalalain, and his tafsir of Surah Ghashiyah, he basically bashes mathematicians and astronomers for saying that the earth was round at this time. He was saying, no, the word sutihat that's used in Surah Ghashiyah literally means spread out flat. And if you read in the Arabic tafsir, the wording he uses basically means it's the ijma' of the scholars, it is their consensus that this is the shape of the earth. But when you read the modern English translations published online, they put some of the scholars, they insert words to it and they try and trick you.
So just to give some evidence to what Billy's saying, let me just quote to you Al-Qurtubi's,
He's one of the most popular.
and Ibn Atiyah. They both record the view that the verse can refer to the baby, not just the fluid. But that passage says nothing about babies.
Okay.
So the tasfiyah are adding to the text. They're adding to the text because the Muslims are recognizing that the text is not sufficient. It talks about, so for example, Al-Muturidi records the opinion of Abu Bakr al-Assam that sulb alludes to the male and tarib to the female. Now the problem with that is that the woman's ovaries are not between the backbone and the ribs. So in other words, these early commentaries, or neither the fluid, are getting are erroneous in their interpretation of the Quran because the Quran is wrong. But if you look at more modern interpretations, like that of Tafhim al-Quran, which was produced by Maulana Sayyid Abdul Alamadudi in the 20th century, he says that sulb is the backbone and tarib is the breastbone, i.e. the ribs, but that procreative fluid in both man and woman is discharged from that part of the body which is between the backbone and the breast. Now that's erroneous, even by modern standards. It is, they go on to talk about, that makes the argument that if you chop off the hands and legs of someone, this fluid continues to be produced. And so that proves in their mindset that it is something coming from above the pelvis. So this Quranic passage is leading Muslims into error, to defend error that is incompatible. Fi Zilal al-Quran, which is Sayyid Qutb, 20th century, states this: these people who are created out of gushing water issuing between the loins and the breastbone. Notice what the modern translator does. The modern tasfir changes the words from backbone and ribs to loins and breastbone. And so, as Billy said, modern interpreters are massaging the text to say something that it does not say, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, thank you for that. Thank you for
Okay.